I think it's very important that tradition stays, and tradition has a huge part of all this. But there's also points where you look at tradition and go, is that still fit for purpose today? Is that still the right thing to do? Are we still doing and having the most impact we could be having?
The moment millions of people around the world never thought would come. This soon arrived not with a grand proclamation or a dramatic announcement. It arrived quietly, deliberately, and with the weight of centuries pressing down on a single moment. And when it did, the cameras caught something that no royal protocol could contain. Camilla's face, watched by millions across the globe on live television, told a story that no palace spokesman would ever be willing to put into words. But before we get to that moment, and we will get there, every detail of it, you need to understand how we arrived here. Because what happened was not an accident. It was not a surprise. It was the result of something that has been building inside Buckingham Palace for years, hidden behind carefully managed public appearances, official statements, and the ancient traditions of an institution that has survived for centuries by mastering the art of saying very little while doing very much. Stay with us, because the full story is far more extraordinary than the headlines suggest. The shift nobody was supposed to notice. For the past several years, royal watchers, insiders, and commentators have been tracking something unusual happening inside the walls of Buckingham Palace. It was subtle at first, the kind of shift that only the most attentive observers pick up on. Prince William, the Prince of Wales, was not simply preparing for a distant future anymore. He was operating as though that future had already begun. Think about what that means for a moment. The British monarchy has one of the most clearly defined hierarchies in the world. Authority flows from the reigning monarch downward. Decisions of consequence belong to the king or queen alone. That has been the constitutional and cultural reality of the crown for centuries. And yet, something was changing. Royal correspondents began noting that William's presence was expanding beyond what tradition typically allowed for an heir apparent. His major charitable initiatives, his international environmental programs through the Earthshot Prize, his diplomatic visits to foreign leaders, these were not the activities of a prince waiting patiently in the wings. These were the activities of someone who was already, in practical terms, sharing the burden of leadership. Behind palace walls, aides reportedly described William as deeply involved in long-term strategic discussions about the monarchy's future. Not observing, not advising from a distance, involved, present, shaping the direction of an institution that he had not yet officially inherited. One former royal advisor put it plainly: when the future of the monarchy begins to take shape, the heir must gradually move from observing events to helping direct them. By the time most of the public had begun to take notice, that moment had, according to many insiders, already arrived. But why? What changed? And why did it happen when it did? The weight that fell on William's shoulders. To understand how William ended up at the center of this story, you have to understand the extraordinary series of events that reshaped the British royal family over the past several years. It began with the passing of Queen Elizabeth II in 2022, a moment that ended one of the longest and most stable reigns in British history and placed King Charles III on the throne. Charles became the oldest monarch in British history to begin a reign, inheriting the crown after more than 70 years as heir apparent. His ascension was historic, and almost immediately, attention shifted, not backward to what had been, but forward to what would come next. That next chapter had a name: William. Within royal circles, the Prince and Princess of Wales were already being described as the figures who would carry the monarchy through the coming decades. Their popularity with the public was not just strong, it was exceptional. In countries like the United States, Canada, and Australia, where global fascination with the royal family has never diminished, William and Catherine had become something the monarchy desperately needed: a bridge between tradition and the modern world. But then came a blow that nobody in the palace had fully anticipated. Prince Harry's departure from official royal duties created a rupture in the carefully balanced structure of the working royal family. For decades, the strength of the institution had depended on a team of senior royals sharing the weight of public engagements, diplomatic appearances, state functions, and charitable leadership. When Harry stepped back, alongside Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, that balance did not simply shift. It fractured. Responsibilities that had once been distributed across several members of the family suddenly had to be redistributed, and much of that weight fell on William. The Prince of Wales found himself carrying a greater share of the monarchy's public work than any heir in living memory. state visits, diplomatic meetings, environmental initiatives, major royal engagements of global significance. Increasingly, he was not one face among many. He was the face. And inside the palace, the weight was not only being felt publicly, it was being felt strategically. Advisors and senior courtiers were being forced to confront difficult questions about how the monarchy could remain relevant to younger generations, how it could maintain public trust after years of intense scrutiny, how it could adapt to a world where every royal decision is instantly analyzed, debated, and judged across global media within minutes of being made. These discussions did not happen around King Charles alone. They happened around William. What nobody said out loud. Here is the question that royal observers had been circling for years, carefully. The way you circle something dangerous that you are not quite sure is real. Was King Charles III stepping back? Not officially, not constitutionally. The structure of the monarchy remained unchanged on paper. Charles was the sovereign. Every official decision still flowed through the authority of the crown. That constitutional reality had not shifted. But history shows, and it shows this repeatedly, that the true direction of the monarchy is often shaped long before a crown changes hands. The decisions made in private, the responsibilities quietly redistributed, the moments of transition that happen in the margins of official record, carried not by proclamations but by the gradual accumulation of trust placed in the next generation. And there was something else, something that made this moment different from any transition in modern royal history. Charles himself had spent decades as Prince of Wales, waiting longer than any heir in British history to inherit the crown. He understood, better than almost anyone alive, what that long apprenticeship felt like. He knew what it meant to watch, to wait, to prepare for a role that never quite seemed to arrive. Few people in the world were better positioned to understand the cost of leaving an heir unprepared. For that reason, a number of observers began suggesting something that seemed almost too significant to say plainly, that Charles was deliberately, consciously, encouraging William to take on greater responsibilities now, not as a sign of weakness, not because of any health crisis or sudden inability to carry out his duties, but as an act of deliberate preparation. A father and a king, ensuring that when the crown eventually passed, his son would already know its weight. That interpretation made sense to a great many people who study the monarchy closely. It would not be unprecedented. Throughout history, monarchs have relied on their heirs to shoulder increasing responsibility as the institution prepared for the next stage of its continuity. But what was happening now felt different in scale, in scope, in urgency. And then came the moment that changed everything. The day the world watched. Let's be precise about what the cameras captured, because precision matters here. William had, over the preceding months, assumed a presence in royal affairs that went beyond anything that had been officially announced. His engagements were not simply increasing in number, they were increasing in significance. The kinds of appearances, the caliber of meetings, the decisions being made around and alongside him, all of it pointed in one direction. And then, on a day that had been publicly framed in relatively routine terms, something happened that was anything but routine: the swearing in. The ceremony itself carried the gravity that only centuries of tradition can produce. Every detail was deliberate. Every element of the ritual had been shaped by the history of a monarchy that understands, better than almost any institution on earth, the power of ceremony to communicate what words cannot. The weight of what was happening pressed on the room like atmosphere, and William stood at the center of it. What does a moment like this feel like from the inside? That is something most of us will never know. But the cameras saw what they saw, and what they saw on the faces of everyone present was unmistakable. For William, composure, steadiness, the kind of calm that does not come from the absence of feeling, but from having prepared for this for a very long time. Observers who know him well would not have been surprised. This was a man who had spent years, quietly, deliberately, without fanfare, stepping into responsibilities that tradition had said were not yet his to carry. He had been preparing for this moment before anyone was supposed to know it was coming. But then there was Camilla. Camilla's face. What the cameras saw. There are moments in public life when a face says everything that words are not permitted to say. Politicians know this. Diplomats know this. The royal family, masters of the managed public image, know this better than anyone. And on live television, watched by millions of people around the world, Camilla's face said something. Let's be clear about what was visible and what it meant. The expression that crossed Camilla's face in that moment was not grief. It was not confusion. It was not the neutral composure of someone simply witnessing an historic occasion. It was something sharper, something more complicated, something that, depending on who you ask and how they feel about the monarchy, could be read in very different ways. Some observers watching in real time described it as anger. Others said it looked like the face of someone who had known this moment was coming and had not made peace with it. Others, still more sympathetic to Camilla's position, suggested that what they were seeing was not anger at all, but the expression of a woman caught in an almost impossible emotional situation. A queen consort watching the monarchy's center of gravity shift away from the generation she belongs to, toward the next one, in real time, on live television. Whatever the precise emotional reality behind that expression, the cameras caught it. Social media exploded. Clips were shared millions of times within hours. Commentators dissected the moment frame by frame, second by second, with the kind of intensity usually reserved for international crises. And the palace, as it always does, said nothing. Because what could they say? The image had already spoken, loudly, across every screen and device and platform on the planet. Why Camilla's reaction matters. To understand why that moment hit as hard as it did, you need to understand Camilla's position within the royal family and the complicated history that surrounds it. Camilla Parker Bowles became queen consort upon Charles's accession to the throne in 2022. Her journey to that title was one of the most turbulent in modern royal history. Decades of public scrutiny, controversy, and the long shadow of the late Princess Diana shaped public perception of Camilla in ways that no amount of official rehabilitation could fully erase. She worked for years to rebuild her image, to be accepted, to be seen as a legitimate partner to the king and a worthy representative of the crown. And then, gradually, she achieved something remarkable. Public opinion softened. Her position was confirmed. The title of queen consort, and later queen, became officially hers. But titles and power are not the same thing. An authority within the royal family has never been distributed simply by official designation. The growing prominence of William and Catherine represents something that cannot be entirely comfortable for Camilla. Not because she has any constitutional grievance with it, but because the dynamics of royal power are intensely personal, intensely familial, and intensely felt. Every shift in the monarchy's center of gravity changes the landscape for everyone within it. When William steps forward, Charles, by definition, recedes slightly. And when Charles recedes, so does everything and everyone associated most closely with his authority, including the queen who has spent decades working to stand securely beside him. That is the emotional reality that the cameras may have captured on Camilla's face. Not malice, not petty anger, but the complex, private reaction of a woman watching history move in a direction that, however expected, however necessary, has a personal cost she was not permitted to show. And the fact that millions of people saw it, analyzed it, debated it, shared it, and formed opinions about it, says something deeply important about the world the modern monarchy must navigate. There are no private moments anymore. Not for them. Not ever. The monarchy that William is inheriting. Here is what William is walking into. Here is the institution that now, in very real terms, rests increasingly in his hands. The British monarchy today faces challenges unlike any its predecessors encountered during the long, stabilizing reign of Queen Elizabeth II. Public expectations have changed. The media environment is not just intense, it is relentless, global, and instantaneous in a way that was simply not possible even 20 years ago. Every internal disagreement, every face captured on a camera, every unguarded expression on live television becomes, within hours, a global story. Internal family tensions have added additional pressure. The departure of Harry and Meghan did not just create a staffing gap. It created a wound that is never fully healed, a public narrative of division and dysfunction that the monarchy has had to work hard to counteract with demonstrations of unity and purpose. The monarchy must also contend with evolving questions about its relevance, its cost, its role in a changing world where traditions are interrogated more rigorously than ever before, and where the institution's very existence cannot be taken for granted in the way it once was. This is what William is preparing to lead. not a stable, unquestioned institution coasting on centuries of accumulated respect. A living organization under pressure, navigating a world that is changing faster than any of its ancient protocols were designed to handle. And he knows it. That knowledge, that awareness of the stakes, is visible in the way he carries himself, in the discipline of his public persona, in the careful, deliberate way that he and Catherine have constructed their image over the years. Calm, responsible, modern without being reckless, traditional without being rigid. They are not simply the future of the monarchy. They are the monarchy's argument for its own continued relevance. Catherine, the partner who changes everything. No account of William's rise would be complete without accounting for the woman beside him. Catherine, Princess of Wales, has been one of the most consequential figures in the modern royal family, not because of any single dramatic moment, but because of the sustained, disciplined quality of her public service over more than a decade. She has built a reputation that is, by the standards of the media environment she operates in, almost impervious to the criticism that has engulfed other members of the royal family. Her work on early childhood development, mental health awareness, and community engagement has given her a platform that is distinctly her own, not simply an extension of her husband's role, but an independent contribution to the monarchy's public mission. And her personal story, including the brave public disclosure of her health challenges, connected her to ordinary people in a way that royal figures rarely achieve. Her journey was watched with anxiety by millions who had come to care about her not just as a public figure, but as a person. Within royal circles, the Prince and Princess of Wales are described as a unified force, a partnership, a team whose combined presence is greater than the sum of its parts. And that matters enormously as the monarchy navigates a future where public trust and personal connection are the institution's most valuable assets. Together, William and Catherine represent something the monarchy has rarely managed to produce at exactly the right moment. A generation of leadership that feels both rooted in tradition and genuinely modern. That combination is extraordinarily difficult to achieve, and the fact that they have achieved it is not luck. It is the result of years of careful, considered work that rarely receives the recognition it deserves. The question the palace will not answer here is what we do not know. And in the world of royal analysis, what we do not know is often more revealing than what we do. We do not know the precise nature of the conversations happening behind palace walls. We do not know the exact terms of any arrangement between Charles and William regarding the distribution of responsibilities. We do not have access to the private discussions, the strategic meetings, the moments of decision that have produced the shift that so many observers are now reporting. The palace will not tell us. It almost certainly never will. But we can read what is visible. We can trace the pattern of engagements. We can note the kinds of decisions in which William is now reportedly involved. We can observe the changing prominence of the Prince of Wales in the monarchy's public work. And we can watch faces on live television. What those sources tell us, collectively, is this. Something is changing inside Buckingham Palace. Something significant. Something that, by the standards of an institution as ancient and as carefully managed as the British monarchy, is happening with remarkable speed. The monarchy is not experiencing a sudden transfer of power. The constitutional reality remains unchanged. King Charles III is the sovereign. Every official decision flows through the authority of the crown. But the direction of the institution, the vision for its future, the strategy for its survival, the identity it will carry into the next generation, that appears to be increasingly shaped by a man who has not yet formally inherited the crown. And when he does, the transition may feel less like a beginning and more like a continuation, because the beginning, if many observers are right, has already happened. What history will say? 100 years from now, historians will look back at this period and they will identify a moment, a turning point, when the British monarchy shifted from the era of Charles to the era of William. They will trace the line of that transition with the clarity that only hindsight allows. They will note the structural pressures that made the transition necessary. Harry's departure, the relentless intensity of the media environment, the changing expectations of a global public that demands both tradition and authenticity from an institution that has historically been far more comfortable providing only the former. They will note the personal qualities that made William the right person for the moment. His steadiness, his discipline, his ability to carry the weight of public scrutiny without being broken by it, his partnership with Catherine, his genuine engagement with causes, environmental sustainability, mental health, community resilience, that speak to the values of the generation he will need to win over. They will also note something that is easy to overlook in the noise of daily headlines: that William did not simply wait for his moment. He shaped it, quietly, methodically, and with a strategic intelligence that the palace rarely acknowledges publicly. He positioned himself not as an heir, counting down the days, but as a leader already in motion. The Earthshot Prize alone, a global environmental initiative that has drawn world leaders, scientists, and innovators into William's orbit, demonstrated an ambition that goes far beyond ceremonial duty. It announced to anyone paying close attention that the next monarch intends to matter, not just symbolically, substantively. Historians will also grapple with the role that Catherine played in making this transition possible. A lesser partner might have struggled under the pressure. Instead, she became a stabilizing force, not only for William personally, but for the public image of the monarchy itself. Her resilience, her dignity during intensely difficult personal moments, and her capacity to connect with ordinary people across cultural and generational lines gave the institution something it urgently needed: a human face that people genuinely trusted. And they will note, somewhere in their accounts, a moment on live television when a camera caught a face that said what the palace could not say. A face that told the story of what it costs, personally, privately, humanly, to watch the center of gravity shift. The monarchy has survived for centuries not by refusing change, but by managing it carefully, by allowing each generation to step forward while the previous one still provides guidance and stability. That is the delicate balance that has always defined the institution's extraordinary longevity. What we are witnessing now is that balance in motion. Charles leading as king, William rising to carry the institution forward, Catherine standing beside him as the partner who will share that responsibility when the next chapter fully arrives. The moment that defined everything. So let us return to where we began. To the moment that stopped the world for just a few seconds. To the image that traveled around the globe before most people had time to process what they were seeing. William, sworn in. The weight of history settling on his shoulders with a finality that ceremonial occasions alone cannot manufacture. A finality that comes only from knowing, truly knowing, that the moment is real. And Camilla's face. Caught by a camera she could not control, in a moment she could not manage, revealing something she could not take back. Was it anger? Was it grief? Was it the complicated emotional truth of a woman in an impossible position, watching history move in ways that no one asked her permission for? You have watched it. You have formed your own opinion. And that opinion matters, because the monarchy's survival has always depended on public opinion, on the feelings of ordinary people watching extraordinary events and deciding in the privacy of their own judgment whether the institution in front of them deserves to continue. Here is what we want to know from you. What did you see in Camilla's face? Do you think William is ready to lead the monarchy through the challenges ahead? And do you believe this transition is genuinely about preparing the institution for the future? Or is something else entirely driving the changes happening inside Buckingham Palace right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The conversation happening there right now is extraordinary, and your perspective is part of it, because the monarchy does not belong only to the people inside the palace. In a very real sense, it belongs to all of us who watch it, who care about it, who argue about it, who share clips of a face caught unguarded on live television and spend days trying to decide what it meant. That is the power of this institution, even now, even in a world that has moved so far from the world that created it. And as William stands at the center of its next chapter, that power, complicated, contested, and undeniably real, is precisely what he has now been entrusted to protect. If you found this video valuable, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story like this. The conversation about the future of the crown is only getting more intense, and you will not want to be the last one to know what happens next.